What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Nate here from Out of the Basement, joined with Mike.
Hello.
And today we are going to be reviewing Suspiria 2018. This is the brand new film from Luca Guadagnino, who also directed Call Me By Your Name, a movie I have not seen.
But I've seen it.
You tell me that it's a great time, and you always try and convince me to buy it, but...
yeah, it's a good movie.
still haven't gotten around to it. But this is a very different film from Call Me By Your Name.
In some ways.
As far as I understand, at least. This is going to be a kind of spoilery review. We're definitely going to talk some spoilers, so if you haven't seen Suspiria, maybe tune out for the later half of this video, but we'll give our spoiler-free thoughts before we really talk about a lot of things that happen in the movie, because there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot going on in this movie. Spoiler-free thoughts, I guess, Mike.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it's an interesting movie because it obviously takes the core story of Suspiria, which, you know, being an American girl, comes to Germany to basically fine-tune her ballet skills.
Yeah,
and
it's like a specialty school.
Yeah.
They establish early on where it's like, you already know how to dance if you're coming here.
Yeah, like, it's definitely not like she knows what she's doing, so she's, you know, she's very talented, and, you know, she has an audition and, you know, impresses some people or whatever, so... But the core narrative is definitely, like, the same. Yeah, otherwise, you know, it's very different from Suspiria in 1977. There's a lot more characters that are, like, fully explored and, like, with side plots that, you know, turn out to be more than just a side plot. It's like a whole nother narrative.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of, you know, metaphors and themes that every... you know, clickbait website will tell you that you missed out on because you're an idiot. And
Ending explained.
Yeah, you don't know how to watch movies or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's
also an hour longer than the original movie too. So.
Yeah, it's a long movie, but it doesn't necessarily feel that long, and that kind of goes, I think, in hand with the fact that there's so much narrative. Yeah. Not just a singular narrative, but multiple narratives.
And it's broken up into 6 parts, 6 acts.
Yeah, and an epilogue.
And
which they charmingly tell us at the beginning, like,
yeah,
6 acts and an epilogue, which I thought was kind of funny.
I mean, though, the movie, it is really well paced, I will say. For a 2.5 hour long movie, I personally didn't feel like it felt that long at all.
No.
By the time we got to the epilogue, I was like, wow, that's it. My spoiler-free thoughts on the movie: it's a good movie. However, like Mike said, it is pretty much just a remake of Suspiria in name and the core story. In that regard, part of me, I said this since I first saw the trailer, and it looked so different. Most of you guys know Suspiria in 1977 was one of the last movies to be processed in Technicolor, and the colors are very vibrant, very crazy, lots of primary colors throughout the movie.
Super unnatural lighting.
Yeah.
To where it, like, borders on kind of funny, but it's so cool that you're like, I don't care. Yeah,
and it sort of adds to the nightmare of the original Suspiria, and
it's very surrealist.
And from the opening, from the very first trailer of this movie, it was dark, drab, not a lot of color.
It's a very, very muted palette.
Yeah, except for, like, certain things, like, you know, like Madame Blanc's orange dress that she wears. I feel like Susie's hair pops in a few scenes as well, yeah. But for the most part, so you could kind of see that it was like the exact opposite of what Suspiria was trying to do. And after seeing the movie, I guess my fear was confirmed, and that is, why even bother calling this Suspiria? Why not just make a movie that is an homage to Suspiria or Dario Argento? I understand that Luca Guadagnino is very passionate about the original. He seems, you know, very into it, but it's just like, it's so different at the point, like, why even bother? And it's just, to me, seems like they just use that as a way to get people to go see this movie.
Yeah.
But no one's really seeing the movie anyway because it has a super limited release.
and people don't like movies that are different.
Yeah, and 2.5 hours long and are like very weird. You gotta kind of think about it.
Yeah.
So it's just very confusing to me. This movie also had a $20 million budget, which is insane. So clearly, Amazon Studios, at least to me, was expecting this movie to make a lot of money, and it is making some money, but I honestly, I don't think it's going to pass its budget at all.
It's a very strange movie in terms of how it was released, because you're wondering, maybe it was the director who was like, oh, I'd like to have it because, like you say, he's such a big fan of the original, but it's also, you also kind of wonder, like, is it the studio who's like, we want the name recognition, so then people are like, oh, I'll go see this, because they knew that it was going to be a tough sell to begin with.
But even at that point, I'm like...
It's like Suspiria's not that big of a movie among, like kind of cult fans anyways.
Even like horror fans, I feel like a lot of like more casual horror fans have no idea what Suspiria is. I only saw Suspiria for the first time like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So, being a lifelong horror fan, it took me that long to figure out what this movie was. Definitely, though, it's like you can't remake Suspiria anyway. If you tried to do like the crazy colors, the kind of nonsense storyline, it wouldn't work these days.
Didn't they try that once? It was called Neon Demon.
Yeah.
It's actually a very good movie. I do like Neon Demon.
See, and Neon Demon, to me, is a great example of someone who's clearly inspired by Dario Argento, but didn't set out to remake a movie of his and just was like, I'm inspired by this. Here's my homage to him in a way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel that this movie is as well, but, it's just...
So, see, and that's like what makes me wonder if it was the director who was pushing for the title, or if it was the studio.
I feel like it was definitely the director.
Yeah.
But then again, Amazon must have had some faith because... Again, $20 million budget. That's insane.
I mean, not a lot for Amazon, but...
Yeah, but for an obscure...
Definitely for a small movie with a very, very small release. I mean, we're close enough to a big city where we can see independent movies.
Yeah.
And even at that, this was like, okay, you have 4 days to see this movie. Yeah. I think today it has one showtime, and tomorrow it's done.
Yeah, when I saw this movie in theaters, it was just... me and my girlfriend. We were the only people in the theater.
Yeah, there was one or two other people when I was there.
Yeah, so I was like, damn, no one's coming in. It's just gonna be me and my...
Which is fine with me, because I like a nice empty theater.
Oh yeah, me too. I was like, man, this is great. I don't have to worry about like people ruining the experience for me.
And you know how I feel about people talking during movies.
Yeah, I know. So, just to bring it back and kind of wrap up our spoiler-free thoughts. Again, it's a good movie. Shouldn't be called Suspiria. Also, not really a horror movie. I would say it's more along the lines of a drama with some little tidbits of horror. I would say it's almost more... Instead of saying horror, I would say it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Especially with the scene with Olga that was described a lot earlier in this year. I won't get into details about that in case you don't know what happens. That's a big scene in the movie, but...
Yeah.
Like, that was disturbing, and there's disturbing imagery throughout the movie, but, again, not really a horror movie, more of a drama. And just to wrap up my spoiler-free, I would say it's definitely worth watching. It's probably worth buying on Blu-ray, but at a discount. I don't think this would necessarily be a full pricer for me. I'm thinking $14.99 or less, perhaps. But it's an Amazon movie, so it's probably just going to end up on Amazon Prime. And I have Amazon Prime, so I'll just be able to stream it whenever. But
right, yeah.
Just to wrap up your spoiler-free thoughts, Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely loved it when I first saw it. I'm coming down off of that kind of euphoric high of when I first saw it, and you had some spicy takes. And I still stand by a lot of them, and I will get into that as we go. But it's definitely a very good movie. I want to see it again to really form my hard stance opinion on it. But there are things that I still stand by that are going to be a little spicy, a little bit of a nuclear take.
Yeah, and I also agree with you that I want to see this movie again. I feel like definitely this is a movie that there's a lot to unpack. Yeah. Multiple viewings are required. Yeah, one's just not enough. I mean, it's also just because it's a long movie, and it's like there's a lot to absorb, even just in the length. Not only in content that's kind of
challenging at times, but also it's just a long movie, so there's a lot of details, and it's a very meticulously crafted movie in terms of its details.
So if we miss something or misinterpret anything going forward, don't be a dick in the comments.
Get really mad at us and yell at us and tell us how we're idiots.
Yeah, just be polite. Let's have a discussion about this movie in the comments. If you picked up on something that we didn't, or if we pick up on something that you didn't, let's have a civil conversation. Let's not be angry about it.
Because no one's an expert in everything.
Yeah, and we've only seen this movie one time. So, with all of that being said, definitely try and go see Suspiria in theaters. It's worth your money to see in theaters.
If you can catch it, that is.
Yeah.
Before it flies off.
If you live close to Chicago, New York, or LA, you're in luck.
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
Sorry.
Sorry.
One out there. The one in here. The one that's coming.
They really got rid of the whole mystery aspect of the original film. Right off the bat, you know that there's witches in the dance school. You know that there's something more supernatural going on with Susie as well. They don't try and hide any of that, and I really missed that.
It's a movie where they definitely kind of let you know that there's something going on with witches. You're not really sure what they're doing yet, but you definitely know that there are witches.
Yeah.
Which is a much different way to approach this than the very slow build of there's weird things happening. Is this coincidence? Is this place haunted? What's going on? And then we figure out that it's witches, at the climax of the original.
Which I understand that if you tried to go that route again, the fans of Suspiria would know instantly okay, we already know that there's witches. But I feel like they could have done something a little bit more interesting with the witches instead of just being hey, they're witches. There you go.
Yeah.
As far as the visuals and just overall directing go for this movie, I really enjoyed the cinematography. The very classic 70s whip panning and zooming in on characters' faces, which was present at the beginning of the movie but sort of faded away as the movie progressed. But I really enjoyed that, and I liked the graininess of the movie itself. I'm not 100% sure if it was shot on film.
It definitely looks like it.
It looks like
it. It has that look to it.
And if it is artificial grain, then it's probably the best artificial grain I've ever seen in a movie, because I was like, man, this looks like it could be shot on 16 millimeter or something. But the muted color palette works for the movie because the overall tone of the movie, I would say, is it's very dark, it's very depressing, it's very serious for the most part.
It's a very somber movie.
Yeah, and you definitely get in that sinking feeling, that depressing, everyone's life sucks. Berlin's being torn apart by the very real world events that they incorporated into the movie. That sort of added to the whole depressing tone of the film. However, there are some silly moments in the movie.
Definitely there are. That lighten it up a tad.
The tickling scene, you know what I'm talking about, with the little hook thing and the police officers. I was like, okay, I clearly see that this is being played for laughs, but as a dude, I'm scared for my life right now.
It was quite unnerving.
I thought that we were definitely going to see a little hook.
Yeah, I was like, all right, here we go. Castration. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And especially with how everyone's saying this movie was super disturbing, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. And then thankfully it doesn't go that route. But what did you think of the directing?
Visually and in terms of its directing style, this movie is very interesting because you can tell that the director's taking a lot of influences in. Call Me By Your Name is and that's the only other film that I've seen by him, so I'm going to compare that to this film, even though they're very different, but just to get just for the audience and, for the purpose of the review, to get a sense of his directing style. Call Me By Your Name is a very it's artistically shot in that it all like looks very smooth and like, you know, very nice. It's a very Call Me by Your Name is a very warm movie, not only because there's a lot of sunlight because it's shot mostly in the Italian countryside, but it feels very warm, but it's not very experimentally shot. So I think that's why I was so caught off guard with Suspiria, because this movie feels cold. I mean, there's scenes where I'm like, what temperature is it in this place? Like like the hallways felt like cold in the way that they were shot. And especially with kind of, you know, Susie with her like weird dreams and stuff, I was like, it just felt very cold, like temperature wise.
You know, it's funny you mention that, because I started the movie, I had my big like leather jacket on, I took it off at the start of the movie, and like halfway through I'm like I'm freezing. And
it's really weird how movies can like do things like that, but the movie felt very cold, which is very interesting to me. But also, like you said, with the way that the camera's moving, there's obviously a lot of references to the Giallo movement, to French New Wave, to, you know, a lot of like classic film movements where the camera is a bit more, you know, it's not restrained to just static shots. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of weird kind of floating kind of camera work at times. That reminds me of a movie that I know that Nate loves called Enter the Void.
It's my favorite movie.
But yeah, it's very interesting because it's like you can tell that he's taking influence from Kubrick, because it's like there's some moments where it's like it kind of reminds you of like The Shining a little bit, and like
I can see that.
It's all over the place, but it doesn't feel like schizophrenic in its camera work or its direction. It feels like you're making a big soup and you're just throwing in a bunch of ingredients and it all works together. That I would say that's probably the best way I can describe the visuals. And yeah, like I said, or like you mentioned, I think the muted color palette works with the tone of the film. It's a depressing film. It's not very scary. And I think that the muted kind of tones kind of work with it not being a scary movie and more of like a somber movie.
Yeah.
Like there's not like, it's not very dark. It's just like gray.
Yeah.
Like there's not like a lot of like really, really dark stuff until the end, when there's obviously a huge dark black demon.
Yeah.
But,
which, side note, fuck the theater we saw this movie at for keeping their lights on during the movie, because I felt
that's how it was for me too. I didn't like that.
I felt like because we didn't see the movie together, but we saw it at the same theater.
And I'm sure it was playing in the actual same.
What theater was it in? 6?
It was 16. Yeah, 6.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I was gonna say, I knew they wouldn't move it.
And they, like, the lights were on during the movie, like, fairly bright. And when it got to the dark scenes, I was like, I can't see anything because the fucking lights in the theater are on.
Yeah, I thought that was very strange too.
Turn your fucking lights off.
Turn them off.
Jeez.
But yeah, like the muted colors, it worked well with the depressing kind of tone of the film. I think visually that you know, I said this in my Letterboxd review, that, you know, I'll plug at the end of this because why not? That everything in the visuals are there and they're all working on the same team.
Yeah.
That's the best way that I would describe it.
So, as far as the acting and performances go, for me, I would say that I really can't pick out anyone who gave a bad performance in this movie. Everything is very intentional. All of the ways that, like, the I don't know, I guess, like, Madame Blanc and her gang, they're all, like, very weird. They all have their own little quirks for each other, and it all works very well together. Dakota Johnson, like you said, you were expecting her, you were blown away, or you were impressed by her acting.
Yeah,
because obviously our frame of reference for her is 50 Shades of Grey, which is, I haven't seen a full 50 Shades of Grey movie, but I've seen enough, and her acting in that is abysmal, but I think it's just the shitty writing.
Yeah, see, I've only seen Ralph's review of it, and Ralph the Movie Maker plug. He's a great.
Yes, he needs a plug.
He needs a plug. I'm sure you guys have never heard of him. But I've only seen Ralph's kind of bit on it where he kind of makes fun of it, and part of me was wondering, is this bad acting? Mm-hmm. Is it a good actor in a bad movie? What's going on? And clearly now I see that it's a good actor who was unfortunately in a bad trilogy of movies.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I mean,
those contracts will get you.
yeah, we've been there before with some actors we really like in bad trilogies.
True.
Prequel trilogy, Star Wars. Ewan McGregor.
Oh. But yeah, she really impressed me in this movie. She really sold her role as just like, when there's like the one scene where they're like, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "Ohio."
Yeah, I mean, she's
like very timid, and she's a Mennonite.
Yeah, at the beginning she comes off, she's very timid, she's very shy, and then as the movie goes along, she's like just exuding just sexiness and just sensuality and like confidence, and she's just
she blossoms as a female. It's like, it's almost like a little bit of coming of age in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
You see her get more confident with her dancing too throughout the movie, where she's like, "No, I can do this. Like, I can do it already."
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I liked her confidence and how she's just like, "Look, I'm good at dancing. Like, I can do this."
Yeah. It was definitely like interesting because, in the original Suspiria, I feel like our main character isn't like super confident with her dancing. Like,
I mean, there's hardly any dancing.
Yeah,
in the original movie.
like it's like, I don't know, it's the dancing kind of like, I wouldn't even say takes a back seat. It takes like 3 rows of seats back. But
because it's like there's the one scene where she's really sick after the lady flashes the mirror at her. She passes out, and that's like the last of the dancing in the original Suspiria. Everything else is like Susie's bedridden. She's a little drunk because she's drinking that red wine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dancing in this movie definitely takes a very prominent role.
How did you feel about that?
I liked the dancing.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, especially the final dance with the red rope thingies, and like the movements of the dancing in this movie were not, to me at least, I'm not a ballet expert, but it was very like not ballet in my mind.
Yeah, it was definitely like a much more in your face. It's a bit more sexualized, I think, in that it's like trying to be kind of provocative.
Yeah.
But not in a way that's like, this is like it's not like there's not a lot of nudity in the movie either, and we were talking about that.
I mean, they're like is, but there isn't.
Yeah, like there is, but like it's not like sexualized nudity,
no.
but the dancing is very like provocative, but sometimes it comes in a way where it's like the dancing is very like disorienting as for the viewer, because there's just a lot of like flowing and motion, and just as things are kind of, the creepiness is unfolding and things like that, it just gets very very weird. And that brings us to what I would argue is probably my favorite scene in the movie, where Olga gets pretzeled basically.
She turns into a human pretzel, and yeah, that is a very disturbing scene. It's like like Susie is almost causing this pain to her, through like spells that have been cast on,
like, through her, because I mean, she's not doing it directly, at least it's not explicitly saying that, but it's definitely like going through her, this kind of pain and like killing off this person. And it's very strange because Susie's just completely unaware, giving a incredible dance performance where she's like, she knows all the moves, and she's like, I've seen this dance a million times as a girl.
Yeah,
I got it. Everyone else is like, whoa, she stepped up and she's like doing the dance like she's only been here for like a day or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird, like, it's an empowering moment for Susie, and then it's like a brutal moment for Olga, where you're watching her being
thrown across the room, her arms being broken, the part where her jaw is like coming off of her face, and you're just like, ugh. And then the fact that she's alive after that.
Yeah.
When all of the other witches come in there, and you're like, oh my, like, and she's just like, and I was just like, she's alive. Oh my god.
It's weird because I'm a fan of kind of crazy movies that are like very disturbing, like especially lately I've been really enjoying like a lot of like off the wall Japanese horror where like crazy shit's just happening the whole movie, and this just felt so disturbing to me. Like, I'm so glad that it was at the end of an act, and that the next, I think it was the third act, began, and it's like just a chill little like house or something. Like, it was very like, I needed an actual like break, because it was just so disorienting and disturbing, which is really weird because I wasn't expecting to be like that, like shocked by it.
I would definitely say I would agree with you that that's probably the best scene in the movie. It's the most intense. It's the most horrific and disturbing scene throughout the movie, which kind of really sucks when you get to the end of the movie and you're just like...
Yeah.
But back to the acting, Tilda Swinton absolutely kills it in this movie. She plays Madame Blanc,
3 characters.
Mother Marcos, and the doctor, Dr. Kempler. Yeah, so...
German name that starts with a K.
I didn't know that she played the old man doctor, but as soon as the old man doctor came on screen and he has that weird voice, and there's some scenes where he's talking but his lips aren't moving exactly, I was like, I think this is a young person in old man makeup. Mm-hmm. So then when we were talking about the movie after I saw it and you were like, that was Tilda Swinton, I was like, I knew something was up with that old man.
Something was different, yeah.
But
she's great. Madame Blanc, I think she's terrifying.
She's terrifying, but you're also just like, man, like she's so like inviting.
Yeah.
She's like very polite and she's very comforting to Susie.
I mean, it's definitely like the phrase like, when the devil comes for you, they're going to be very charming.
Yeah.
Because like you know that like there's some evilness down there, but it's like she's super charming. She's very nice to Susie and very like motherly and very, like you said, inviting. But also she's like, sometimes she's just stone cold, just terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's...
And at first when she's introduced in the movie and, they're all like, oh, like Madame Blanc, and, Madame Blanc's not in Susie's initial, like, performance interview, but then she is, and she's just, like, staring very mysteriously, and you're like,
what's
oh,
going
shit.
on? Yeah.
I really wish, though, we could have gotten a little bit more Chloe Grace Moretz. I really enjoy her in most of the movies I've seen her in. And her as Patricia, as a broken character, was really interesting to me because I feel like I've never seen her in that kind of position before.
I had an interesting kind of experience with that because when she came on screen, because she's the very beginning of the film is her talking with Dr. Klempler, the psychiatrist, about how she basically, and you figure this out as you go along, it's not explicitly stated in the beginning, that how she ran away from the school and there's all this crazy stuff happening and the doctor's trying to figure out if she's delusional or if there's any truth to this or whatever. But as she was playing her character, I was like, is this that girl or is this somebody else?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't recognize her as an actress at first because I hadn't seen her in such like a crazy, broken, like, I'm really screwed up from this experience role.
Yeah.
And it was really just transformative. Like, I'm really excited what she does now that she's proven herself that she can do roles like that.
Yeah, because, I mean, my frame of reference for her is the Amityville Horror remake when she was, like, fucking 6.
Yeah.
And the Kick-Ass movies.
Yeah.
Which she's awesome in the Kick-Ass movies.
Yeah, I mean, we're big fans of Kick-Ass over here at Out of the Basement.
Yeah.
Those are fun movies. But
Haven't seen the Carrie remake, because... but...
we have to talk about that.
Yeah, and... I mean, it's weird to see her with, like, brown, dark hair, too, because she always has blonde hair in every movie I've seen her in.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, she's, like, speaking German, she's very distraught, and I was like, wow, this is great. But then she just kind of disappears for an hour of the movie.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer.
In the original, you see very clearly what happens to Patricia, because that's the opening of the movie. Mm-hmm. And you don't get that resolution until later in the movie, and what happens to her is pretty fucked up, but I kind of wish I would have got to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah. It didn't have like the iconic shot of like the ceiling.
Yeah.
And like you didn't have that with her death, and it's like that was like, obviously you knew it was going to be different because, as we've said, it's like a very different take on the movie, but yeah, you should have seen a little bit more just because she's great. Yeah. She killed in this movie.
I definitely agree. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Susie's storyline. We've already briefly mentioned it, but let's talk a little bit more about the ending of her storyline, where she is totally come into herself. The ending dance, or the final dance, it's not the end of the movie, but the final dance is...
final performance.
Yeah, it's very much a ritual It's very obvious from the moment they start putting the tape down in the star formation.
What does it mean, though? Is it a ritual? Here's 10 things you didn't know about that last dance.
Right. Like, and then after that, when she's coming into herself and we go into the secret underground layer of the witches, and she turns out to be Mother Suspiriorum herself, which was kind of the twist of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little undeserved. It kind of set it up that she, like, maybe knew that she had some of these powers, but it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it kind of seemed like they were just, like, trying to, like, hurry up and sort of wrap up this part of the story, and they're just like, okay, yeah, she's Mother Suspiriorum.
I can definitely see that, but what I, and as I've been poking fun at all these, what you missed in Suspiria 2018 articles and videos, there is one that is actually very well written that I did read and check out. And if I can find it, I'll try and remember to link it in the description. But it talks about how is she Mother Suspiriorum from the start, or does she, is this spirit, she invites it in and it basically becomes, part of her.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes much more sense if you go at the second option, that as she is obviously opening up to Madame Blanc, to the dance school as a whole, becoming more confident, blah blah blah, like we mentioned, this witch spirit, this one of the three mothers, she's inviting it into herself, and that that inviting in basically becomes a reason for there to be a massive change in the leadership. And, with everything that happens in the final big dance, but not dance.
Yeah. But, I don't know. It just seemed like that kind of came out of nowhere and didn't really, like, when that happened, I was just like, all right.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things that I think needs, like, would be something I would be paying attention to as I'm revisiting this movie.
True. It's definitely something that maybe there are a lot more clues than I picked up on, but to me, upon first watch, I was just like, really?
Yeah, they kind of just like threw it at you.
Yeah. And I just want to talk about Mother Marcos for just 2 seconds. Awful costume design. She looked like fucking Butterball from Hellraiser. Like, those glasses, I was just like, oh, she looks so... Like, the movie is so serious. It's so depressing. And then she just looks so fucking cartoony and out of place. Like, she's got, like, little baby hands growing off of her, and she's, like, really disgusting, and she's, like, leaking out of everywhere.
Yeah.
But it just was, it was, like, too over the top for like, the whole movie, I feel like, is played pretty straight. And then they're just like, nope, it's still Suspiria in a way of, like, it's zany and it's over the top and it's crazy, but, like, that just really conflicted with the tone for me.
I can understand that, but at the same time, I also, like, kind of had a experience with it like I did with Society, where, like, obviously Society is a much more, like, silly movie the whole way through.
Fuck you, butthead.
But then the ending, it just goes completely bananas. And I've kind of felt that way about this movie, where, like, most of the movie is very serious, and then the ending goes completely bananas, in a similar way that I did with Neon Demon, that, the ending of it just gets super gross out of nowhere, when the rest of the movie's been just kind of, like, grimy in terms of, conversations and, people's motivations and things like that, but not... blood and guts and things like that. So I kind of liked how it kind of jumped the shark and was like, let's just get as gross as possible, even if it borders on kind of silly.
Yeah, I could see that, but for me, and then that ending scene, it sets up a lot of horror, and you're like, oh, here comes, like, like you said, the manifestation of death. There's, like, this big demon, and it looks pretty scary, and then they just go into CGI blood head explosions, and I was like, oh no, the CG blood looked so bad.
Yeah, it's kind of definitely a bummer.
I was so disappointed that there was CG blood, because it looked awful, and you've seen a billion horror movies. A head explosion is nothing now. So when the demon is just exploding everyone's head, I was just like, this is all you got. Like, I was expecting something a little bit more grotesque, like when you see, like, they're pulling the guts out of the three girls that were, like, like Patricia, Olga, and then I forget who the other one was, but they're pulling their intestines out. They're like rubbing them on themselves, and I'm like, yes, like this is fucked up. And then they're just like, CGI head explosions. Like that's all we got. And then that fucking song starts playing and completely ruins any of the horror or disturbing moments of that scene. That song just doesn't fit.
See, and it's interesting to hear somebody else's opinion on this, because as you know at Out of the Basement, we always agree on everything and never ever disagree with each other. But I'm doing it this time. I think that this scene's interesting because it kind of has almost like a sadomasochistic like experience with the viewer, where you're like, I want the horror, give me the guts, give me the blood, and then it just like doesn't.
Yeah.
It sets itself up to where you're like, oh, you're expecting this big, violent, gross ending or whatever, and it's kind of just like, no. Yeah. And then it plays like a sappy song over it. And I didn't hate the song. I was definitely confused at first, but now that I've thought about it more, it seems like it's a very weird kind of like a give and take type of scenario with the director and the audience. Once again, something that I really need to revisit, because I'm not sure if that's me projecting what I would do in that situation, or if I'm explaining it to myself or trying to rationalize or whatever, or if it's just lazy filmmaking.
Yeah, and the choppy slow motion too was really like not good.
It's a very weird thing that I think people are either gonna think is cool or bad.
I think that it would have worked had there not been vocals on the track. The vocals really killed it for me, because most of you guys know Tom York did the soundtrack to this movie, and he is the singer of Radiohead. So it just kind of sounded like a Radiohead song was playing, and I was like, God damn it. Like, I just wanted that to be like a horrific scene and kind of give a little shock to the audience, but then it's just undercut with that sad, melancholic song.
Well, and what's kind of interesting is I heard somebody kind of compare that to the original score, where it's like the original score to 77 Suspiria is like weird and not like really like scary.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bright sounding almost, with like the strings, and it's very like
it's very like fantastical.
Yeah, and it's like, so I think that because that original score kind of subverted people's expectations with the original, that's what they were attempting to do with this song. Again, that's just what I've heard some people say. I don't know if that's the truth or if it's people just making excuses on behalf of the filmmaker or what, but...
I think with the original, the soundtrack being the way it is adds to the dreamlike nightmare scenario of the entire movie, and I think that Suspiria 2018 doesn't really focus on the nightmare dreamlike aspect. It's not as like, jumpy.
It's
and
definitely
like,
there, but it's nowhere near as present as it is in 77.
Yeah, but that really rubbed me the wrong way. The song was just really disappointing, and I don't know. And then of course we got that image earlier in the year of like the grotesque like Dakota Johnson like opening her chest open, and it looks like a vagina, which definitely adds to the overall like womanhood theme of the movie.
Did you guys pick up on the feminism undertones? Yeah. Did you guys get it?
Did you get it? But then they chicken out in the actual movie when she pulls open her chest.
Yeah, it's a different shot.
And it's a very small wound. It's like all black and like oozy, and you can kind of see it in there, but it's not as defined as that screenshot was. And I was just kind of like I thought that was like when that screenshot came out, I was like, man, that's fucked up. Like that's really cool. But then they chicken out in the movie, and it's a CG, and it's a CG mess on Dakota Johnson's chest, and I was just like, $20 million, guys. Let's just do practical effects. There's not that many shots in the movie where there's CG, but when it's there, it's so obvious, and you're just like, it looks so bad.
Yeah. It's very strange because like the gore, or mostly lack thereof, in this movie is very CG. It's not very practical, so it's strange because you're kind of hoping as you go into it that'll be more practical, and then it's not. It's a very. I think that this movie is just mainly trying to mess with people's expectations, and whether or not it's successful in that in a way where it's interesting or where it's just annoying, we'll see in time. But so I already mentioned my big favorite moment in the movie, did you agree that it was Olga's?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that is the highlight of the movie. Definitely my favorite scene. That was the scene where I was most like I was sitting there in the theater wide-eyed, just like what? Like if this is so early in the movie, what could possibly come after it? But then, it's kind of ramps up to that scene and then kind of dips down and then gets a little bit back up and then goes down even further. I also really enjoyed the scene where Sarah is first investigating the hidden passageway.
Where she's counting the steps.
Yeah, where she's counting.
It's a classic.
Yeah, again, reference to the original, which I appreciated.
A reference that wasn't as on the nose as some people are when they reference the movie that they're remaking.
Agreed.
It was like a nice little thing. I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, but she finds Patricia and she's decomposing, but she's still alive, and she's just like, I've just been here decomposing every day.
Just been sleeping. She says I wake up here every day or something, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. And then that weird creature with no arms or no hands and no feet comes out, and she's stalking Sarah. That scene was really awesome, and then it just cuts away, and then you're just like, that's it?
Yeah. It's very weird. Yeah. It's very strange.
Mother Marcos is in the background of that scene. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't realize that, no.
Yeah, there's a couple shots where in the very back there's a bed, and you can see Mother Marcos, and she's just kind of looking at Sarah. But the disgusting creatures in that scene, I was like, yes, here we go. And then they're just nope.
Yeah, and then once again, it's just they take. It's very strange. You got to wonder if it's intentional or if it's because of edits or the studio or whoever. That's something that I think hopefully we'll get some answers with if there's a director's cut or an unrated cut or something in the future.
They tease me with the horror and then they don't deliver. And that's really why, to me, this movie ends up being pretty frustrating, at least on that side of things.
It's definitely, and even though I definitely feel like I enjoyed it more than Nate, I think it is still a frustrating movie. But I kind of like that it's frustrating. I don't know what that says about me or whatever I feel about this, but it's it was just kind of fun that I was ugh, come on, give us what we want, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It was just kind of funny to me.
It works in certain movies. There's definitely movies that I like where it frustrates me, but for this movie in particular, I was just come on. It's a remake of a horror movie, but you've now switched the genre to something completely else, to something completely different.
So I want to talk about a moment that almost ruined the whole movie for me, but then actually became one of my favorite scenes along with Olga. It is where Klemplers or whatever. I want to talk about a part in the movie that kind of almost ruined it for me, but then actually became one of my favorite parts, is where his wife comes back out of nowhere. And
that's Jessica Harper.
Yeah, we figured that out.
Yeah.
She comes back and she's like, oh yeah, I was running, because obviously they're Holocaust survivors. There's some people who miss that somehow. I don't know how.
It's pretty obvious when he's flipping through the journal with this big swastika on it.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, I didn't realize that he was a Holocaust survivor." I was like,
"What?"
I was like, "So after the Holocaust, they had the wall, and that's where we're at now." But all right.
Top 10 things you didn't know about Suspiria.
Top 10 things you missed in European history in high school. But okay. But anyway, she comes back, and it's a very happy, warm series of moments. They're together. They're walking down. It's somber because they're walking by the Berlin Wall, but they're together, and it's oh wow, this is really weird. Why are we getting a happy ending out of this out of nowhere? This movie's been really depressing so far, and I thought that they were just gonna keep going with it and wrap up his story well, he finds his wife, so cool. Like, now let's see what's going on with Susie. And then, nope.
Yeah.
And then the witches just come out of the front of the...
that scene, I almost pissed myself because just there's something so creepy about old ladies running and screaming. And that's exactly what that scene was, and I was just like...
They run out of the dance studio, like, cackling, and, like, it's a very, like, kind of cartoonish witch laugh where it's like...
Yeah.
And you're like... Oh, whoa, what? And then the wife disappears, and then they're like, all right, just kidding. You get to watch us do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah.
And that, like, I was so worried that they were just going to make it into, like, a big, warm, romantic ending, and then they didn't. And I was like, thank God.
Yeah. It still definitely ends on, like, a more somber note.
Yeah.
But it was a little disappointing that... You know, the doctor went through all of that horrible shit. Like, he saw all of the rituals, and then his memory just gets wiped.
Yeah, and, I mean, we were talking about that because I mentioned to Nate how I'm glad it didn't end happy, and he said, I kind of feel like it did. Yeah. It's like, in a way, you know, it's weird because the doctor's problems are resolved to where, like, he knows what happens to his wife, but at the same time, he's seeing all this crazy stuff that's just gonna mess up his life for, you know, what's left of it. Obviously, he's very old, and towards the end when he's in the bed, like, he seems very, like, frail and like he's dying. But then they just wipe the memory, so it's like, is he better off not knowing? Like, you know, are you better off not having all these experiences, these horrific experiences, but at the cost of not knowing what happened to your wife?
Right.
You know, that's kind of the trade-off.
Yeah, and I feel like his whole storyline was based on him finding that closure. So when he finds that closure and then is instantly robbed of said closure, it's just kind of like, what was the point then? What was all of this about if you're just going to be like, none of this happened?
Yeah, and that kind of, like, just further speaks to, like, what I would say is the give and take way that this film is doing itself, where it's like, all right, well, here's something, and then they're like, no, just kidding, we'll take it back. And like I said, I'm not sure if it's intentional or good or bad yet. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. So yeah, you want to close it up and score it?
Yeah, let's...
This has been long enough.
Yeah, it's a long episode, but there's a lot going on in this movie, so it's and I feel like we barely even discussed a lot of it, but... Yeah. We'll definitely have to wait. We'll probably revisit this, you know, when it comes out.
But at the same time, like, we don't want to treat you guys like you're idiots. Like, did you guys pick up on the motherhood, the feminism, the national guilt, abuse of power? They're in Germany and the Berlin Wall. They were Holocaust survivors. Like,
remember the Berlin Wall?
We expect that you guys are, like, competent enough to understand that there's a lot more going on in this movie, and that they're trying to tell us through metaphors. And... Yeah,
I feel like for this movie, it wears a lot of that on its sleeve too. It's not very
it's not like another movie that me and Nate are both a big fan of that doesn't explain anything, which is Possession by Zawalski.
Possession.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I don't know.
Right.
You figure it out. Or even Annihilation, another great one that we're fans of, where they're like,
like, what just... But, like, yeah, this movie, though, I feel like there's definitely a lot of themes, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's not too hard to unpack in the grand scheme of things. So, Mike, if you had to give this movie a score out of 10, what would you give it?
So originally on my Letterboxd, I gave this a 5 out of 5. And like I said, now that I'm kind of thinking more about the movie, and I wanted to try and see it again, wasn't able to. Maybe I'll be able to catch it at some point, one way or another. But I'm definitely seeing some of the problems with it, but I definitely still think it's very good. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay. That's a solid score for me personally. I'm just going to slap a nice 7 out of 10 on it. It's a good movie. It's not great. It's not bad. Should it have been called Suspiria? No.
No, I think we can all agree on that. However, and here it comes. Nuclear take.
Here we go.
I think if you're comparing, and I understand that this is an unfair comparison to make because they're very different movies, but because it's called Suspiria, because it's the same core story, I think that this is a better made movie than the original. Because what makes Suspiria 77 enjoyable is that it's in the 70s. Even though it's technically not a giallo in like the formal definition, it's part of the same movement. So it kind of has that like 70s cheesiness to it, where like there's dub, like obviously, like I said, the lighting is really like wacky and unnatural. Like you said, it's a much more zany movie. But I think that this one, in terms of its like core filmmaking, like camera work, audio, like, you know, the things that like make a movie, I think that this Suspiria 18 is better.
I can understand where you're coming from like a technical aspect, but again, you know, 1977, 2018.
Yeah.
Like, I would hope it would be technically a better movie.
Right. Yeah. So but you know, it's one of those things that like, even though I feel like no one's asking for the comparison, like I still feel like I have to make it just because it's the same title. And that's what, like we said, is kind of frustrating, that it's a movie that shouldn't be called Suspiria in the first place.
Yeah, I think I would have enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did had it been called something else that's not Suspiria.
What would you call this movie?
Yeah.
Type your answer in the comments.
But I don't know. It to me, you know, I still think the original is the superior film. It's definitely a lot. I mean, obviously, we've had 30 plus years to enjoy, 40 years really, to enjoy the original Suspiria, and its impact on horror, its impact on cinema. And this movie, obviously, we don't know the impact it's going to have in the future, but I just have a feeling already that it's not going to have the same cultural relevance as the original.
Oh, and I'm positive it definitely won't. And those are the things that you kind of have to like take into account. Like, obviously, it's not as technically well made, but in terms of its long-lasting, you know, effect on film, on horror, on, you know, the history of Italian cinema and things like that, it's a very different experience. And hey, you know, maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll watch Suspiria 77 again. I'll be like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I mean, could be, but we'll see. We'll have to see. We'll wait and see when we can watch this movie again, let it sink in a little bit more, but that is our review of Suspiria. What did you guys think of the movie? Have you watched it yet? Do you have to wait until it comes out VOD or Blu-ray because you live in the middle of nowhere and you can't see the movie right now? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, what did you enjoy more? If you have seen the movie, did you like the original or the remake more? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Of course, if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new. We're always talking about movies, talk a lot about action figures on this channel as well. So if anything like that sounds appealing to you, make sure you stick around, turn those notifications on so you know when we're uploading. Of course, I'm Nate. I've been joined with Mike.
Great to be here.
And we will see you guys next time on Out of the Basement.